Hello students, I am Raman Gupta from Government College Bara. In this video, I'll teach you another literary device named blank verse and hope that you will study and will learn it well. So let's begin. Blank verse is poetry written with regular metrical but unrhymed lines. As the word tells itself, blank verse is poetry. So, the poetry written with regular metrical but unrhymed lines. There is no rhyme. Almost always in iambic pentameter. It has been described as probably the most common and influential form that English poetry has taken since the 16th century. And Paul Fussell has estimated that about 3/4 of all English poetry is in blank verse. This term is frequently exercised in literature. The first known use of blank verse in the English language was by Henry Howard, the Earl of Surrey, in his translation of the Aeneid, which was composed in 1540, published posthumously after his death in 1507. He may have been inspired by the Latin original, as classical Latin verse did not use rhyme. Or possibly he was inspired by ancient Greek verse or the Italian verse form of versi ciolte, both of which also did not use rhyme. The play Arden of Feversham, which was published in 1590 by an unknown author, the name of the author is not known, is a notable example of end-stopped blank verse. So, the term was being exercised from 15th century, and we'll see the history of English blank verse when it was being started. The 1561 play Gorboduc by Thomas Norton and Thomas Sackville. This is a French name, again students, this is not Sackville, this is Sackville. In French, I-double-L-E is E, is pronounced as E, was the first English play to use blank verse. Christopher Marlowe was the first English author to achieve critical notoriety for his use of blank verse. The major achievements in English blank verse were made by William Shakespeare, who wrote much of the content of his plays in unrhymed iambic pentameter, and John Milton, whose Paradise Lost is written in blank verse. This is the best example of blank verse, students. Milton's Paradise Lost. Miltonic blank verse was widely imitated in the 18th century by such poets as James Thomson in the Seasons and William Cowper in the Task. Romantic English poets such as William Wordsworth, P.B. Shelley and John Keats used blank verse as a major form. Shortly afterwards, Alfred Lord Tennyson became particularly devoted to blank verse, using it, for example, in his long narrative poem, The Princess, as well as for one of his most famous poems, Ulysses. Among American poets, Hart Crane, Wallace Stevens are notable for using blank verse in extended compositions at a time when many other poets were turning to free verse. Marlowe and Shakespeare developed its potential greatly in the late 16th century. Marlowe was the first to exploit the potential of blank verse for powerful and involved speech in Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus is a tragedy written by Marlowe, Christopher Marlowe. So let's read it. You stars that reigned at my nativity, whose influence hath allotted death and hell, now draw up Faustus like a foggy mist into the entrails of you laboring clouds, that when they vomit forth into the air, my limbs may issue from their smoky mouths, so that my soul may but ascend to heaven. The students, you have seen that this extract of Dr. Faustus has no rhyme. This is a metrical composition in iambic pentameter, but it has unrhymed lines. So this is the example of blank verse. Shakespeare developed this feature and also the potential of blank verse for abrupt and irregular speech. For example, in this exchange from King John, one blank verse line is broken between two characters. My lord, a grave, he shall not live, enough. So these are the different lines and broken between two characters. Shakespeare also used enjambment increasingly often in his verse, and in his last plays was given to using feminine endings, in which the last syllable of the line is unstressed. Feminine ending is when the last syllable is unstressed. For instance, lines 3 and 6 of the following example, all of this made his later blank verse extremely rich and varied. Line 3 and 6, unstressed. Ye elves of hill brooks, standing lakes and groves, and ye that on the sands with printless foot do chase the ebbing Neptune and do fly him when he comes back, you demi puppets that by moonshine do the green sore ringlets make, whereof the eve not bites, and you chose, you whose pastime is to make midnight mushrooms that rejoice, to hear the solemn curfew, by whose aid, weak masters though ye be, I have dimmed. So this is an example. It has been frequently exercised by the poets. We do not need to study the whole matter which is written over here, but the important lines and important facts about this term I am telling you, so you can do this. There were the lake poets William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Wordsworth used the form for many of the lyrical ballads 1798 and 1800, and for his longest efforts, the Prelude and the Excursion. Wordsworth's verse recovers some of the freedom of Milton's, but is generally far more regular. In his Tinton lines written a few miles above Tinton Abbey is also the best example of blank verse. So many writers have used them very well. So this is all about blank verse. Students, prepare it well. This is enough for your study. Thank you and have a nice day.